Life in California.
Easy steps is not easy. I can't.
Tonight.
Remember, yes.
Wow. You guys just have a sweater.
Wow. Yes, of course, of course. Reaction-wise,
it's been very good.
yes.
Yes.
Nice.
Thank you so much for everything for doing that. Does it literally sense?
Thank you. Yes, why not?
Come on, let's do this real quick.
Are we ready?
It's on.
AC! Take it back! AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
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 AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
Take it back!
Action!
AC!
Take it back!
AC!
Take it back! So much. Thank you, please. Have your seat, please.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
So
you.
before we sing, we are going to do the national anthem, the Nigerian national anthem, and we all stand up, and then the American national anthem as well. I'm looking for volunteers to sing the American national anthem. I'm serious. YouTube it, no, Dr. Shalako, we have to sing it. If we sing Nigeria, we have to sing American. So let's start with Nigeria, right? You guys still know how to sing your Nigeria? Because if not, we have a big issue already.
He's going to volunteer.
Oh, you are going to volunteer?
Nigerian national anthem.
No, we know how to sing Nigerian. We need America. Okay, on the count of 3. Arise, O compatriots, Nigeria's call of day to serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. One nation of our heroes' fight shall never be in vain. To serve with heart and mind, one nation bound in freedom, peace and unity. That was awesome. You guys still remember?
Am I going to get that video?
Oh,
Am I going to get that video?
let's try that.
Live. Okay, good.
Oh, say, when you see, we died. I'm so proud of you. Google it now.
Should have taken a volunteer.
Gave room through the night, that a flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Take it back.
Please, you may have your seat. At this time, I would like to introduce Mrs. Veronica Huevo. She's going to introduce the Take Back team. Take it back.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're so happy to have our president. Oh my God, who's going to the inauguration? Raise your hand. We're going to chatter is playing and we're going to shake it up and it'll be So when I heard Sahara Reporters, I knew I wasn't going to look back. That's how I knew about our president, Omoyele Sowore. I heard, oh, the guy that, I'm like, I always follow that news. I'm going with him. Because if that person takes over, that we are in good hands. And the people that did work on this, and everybody did that's here, thank you. But the key people are Dakpo Dulami. Let's put our hands together for Dakpo.
Ugo.
And the man himself, who has two sides, he smiles but don't mess with him, Deji. Where are you? And I'm grateful to all of your spouses, because when we do all those things, we potluck and cook and your wife's cook and we make it happen. And it's low-key, low budget, and that's the future of Nigeria. We make it happen. And all of us want to come and make sure it happens. It's not about, we're going to make Nigeria one of the most desirable places on earth. All of our children are doing that.
if everybody has the meeting outlined for today. So the reason we are here is to talk about the current state and the future state of Nigeria, right? This town hall meeting is titled to find out what the current state is and also to get information about what the future is going to look like. So we were going to have a video clip, but because of time, we are skipping that because we value your time. So at this time, I would like to introduce Mr. Joshua Adeoye. Joshua is the public health dentist in Kano State. He is the unofficial chief of staff for the Take It Back movement. So please give him a round of applause.
If it is unofficial, then what is my official title?
You are dentist.
So 4 or 5 years ago, I was a diaspora too. And as I was finishing graduate school at Harvard, I was trying to decide, do I stay and chase these dollars and then go back and help Nigeria? Because that's what I believe I was born for. Or do I go back immediately? Omoyele Sowore helped me answer that question. Unfortunately for me, the answer was not clear as at that particular point in time. But in March this year, when he called me and rocked my world and said, look, let's disrupt the political space in Nigeria, I now realized why I had come to grad school in the US and why I had gone back immediately to go and, in quotes, prepare the ground to follow him around. Now, a lot has been said about capacity, competence, and character in this election, especially because we were so dodged in 2015 about, integrity, equating all of these three things. And over the last 6 to 7 months, I've realized the difference between this notion of integrity and actual capacity, competence, and character. Traveling on the road, the town hall meetings that we've had, it's like the Olympics, the energy that it takes. And even those of us who are a decade younger than him, you know, the previous day there's this huge, intense need for energy. And then by 4 o'clock he's awake, and it's as if he didn't do anything the previous day. By 7 o'clock he's ready, the rest of us, we are running after him. He's like a hurricane. Yes. I don't know where he gets the energy from. Although now when I came to California and I heard that they microdose here, I'm wondering whether, yes, that's where he comes from. I've also been with him when people are trying to make insinuations towards, look, let's join the establishment. Let's first win this thing, and then you can do with it whatever it is that you want. And there, his character has shown. Also, the town hall meetings have shown his competence. It's obvious why prior, politicians just do 4 or 5 rallies in 4 or 5 different zones, maybe including Abuja, and then go home, they don't answer any questions. This is because when you are standing face to face with Nigerians and they are asking you questions straight from the heart, if you don't have the intelligence, if you do not have the competence to handle those issues, it will show. You cannot hide it. So they prefer the facade of, you know, mobilize 10,000 people who do not know you from Adam, come collect something and just go back home. So the town halls that we've done, you know, back to back, state to state, zone to zone, local government to local government, is putting yourself out there. Imagine if he was asked a question on live stream and he fumbled at that question. But I'm proud to say that in 7 months, there's not one question that he has fumbled at. So please, put your hands together as I invite the most competent
Cybobo.
Yes, leader that I think that Nigeria would have had since inception, with the requisite capacity and the character to take Nigeria to the future. Omoyele Sowore.
Thank you. Thank you.
arrived here about 2 days ago. This is our third, used to be our third night here in California. And I can tell you, every moment we've spent here, things have just only got better. And we came in from Nigeria, and probably you've heard the story. We came in directly from one of the most controversial, most dangerous expedition of campaigning that we've ever done. We were trapped inside the palace of the Oni of Ife. Yes. Tear gas. It's never happened before in the history of politics that anybody was tear gas in the Oni of inside the palace of Ife. And we were beaten up as well, physically, yes, assaulted. And it was, for me, the intersection of what used to be the old and the reason why Nigeria must break free permanently. But that is not how our campaign actually started. Our campaign also started on a controversial note. And I will explain to you how. It wasn't the decision to run that started the campaign in the consciousness of Nigeria. It started when I was invited to a radio station in Ibadan. Yes, and there was this minister with big regalia. We call it Agbada in Nigeria. Agbada is like matter. It occupies space. You know. And he's sitting there across from me, and I was brought before him. Actually, I was told later that he was the one that ordered that I be brought before him. And the reason was that he had been looking for me because I wrote a story regarding corruption. And he said to the people who said, oh, Sowore, today is the day I'll teach him a lesson. So I walked into the studio, he sat me down across from him, of course, you know, big man. And he started, you know, I don't know if I provoked him. I said, you know, Honorable Minister, it's good to see you. You are the minister of the outgoing regime. It was as if I pressed the button of the atomic bomb. The guy went off, and he just like, who are you? Where do you come from? Was, you know, it just kept going off. And the responses, the calmness with which I responded to him and schooled him gave us what you refer to in the education sector as teachable moments. Yes. And a lot of people just said, wow, probably this is a transition from the analog era to the digital era. Yes. And ever since then, we couldn't cope with demand for either town hall meetings, radio, TV interviews. Because before we left the studio, the whole country had gotten the message that something seismic had happened to Nigeria. But it's just that I was reminded before we came here that it's just not enough for something seismic to happen. Something greater has to happen than seismic. Or after a hurricane, there has to be some kind of cleanup. And I think that was what the experience at Ife taught us. As soon as the experience at Ife came, you know, and I'm just taking you through my world, you know, we had to recalibrate. We had to recalibrate to understand that the principalities and the forces that are holding Nigeria to ransom are not just going to watch you come and take the space and just let you be walking around. Because the next day, and this is, for me, also like an epiphany, we had to be in Badagry, in Lagos State. And when we got to Badagry, where did we go? We went to, you know, the Museum of Slavery, and found out something I didn't even know before, that our traditional rulers in Yoruba land, working with white people, sold over 400 years, 43 million people into slavery. Yes, that's what happened. 43 million people. 43 million people is way more than a lot of countries today. And that is not just 43 million people sold all over the world. It was 43 million people from Badagry slave ports alone. So if you count Calabar, you go to Ghana and all other slave ports, probably 100 million people were sold into slavery. Almost principally by a collaboration or connivance between traditional rulers and white people. They were selling an average of 300 people per day. There were no weekends, no holidays, no Halloween, no Christmas. They were just selling on a daily basis. And when you look at it, you say to yourself, but has slavery ended? Not so. Because what we used to have is that people were used to be forced out of their land and sold into slavery, and they came here. But now we're in a state of indentured servitude. We are voluntarily selling ourselves into slavery. And the rest of people who couldn't get out into this voluntary slavery are trapped within the slave-like system. And that was what the system wanted me to appreciate that day at the palace, that, regardless of who you are still a slave. Come and bow to us. And if you don't bow to us, what I call prostrate or die, we'll show to you that we'll kill you. And I said to myself, look, it has to take one person to change the mindset of a lot of our people. Even though there was outrage, what I call outrage against courage, a lot of people eventually came down and started questioning, but must he prostrate for another person? If he refuses to prostrate, should he die? That was the question. So that takes us to Nigeria as a whole. The powers that be, the old political cabal in the system, they are not alone. They exist in different sections or sectors of our society. There is a political cabal. They have political parties. There are religious cabals. They work with the political cabals. There are traditional cabals. They also work with the religious and the political cabals. Then there's the economic cabal that is financing all of them. And these things are deliberately part of a system that is enslaving our people. 43 million of them over 400 years. Now we are at 198 million slaves, practically, in Nigeria, held against our will by these four cabals that I've mentioned to you. And all of you probably have had encounters with them. But when they want to describe your condition to you, they will redefine it to tell you that, well, some of it is spiritual, traditional, cultural. It's a lie. At the end of the day, they are holding your destiny to ransom. And when you break free from that ransom, somehow you are held back to it, because how do you wake up in America and you have your brothers and sisters who can feed? You have to think about them. You have to send them Western Union, right? You know the deal now when they start sending you, prayers from Nigeria by WhatsApp. Prayers. When you don't answer them with Western Union, you start getting proverbs. It is the way the country has been held to ransom. But ask yourself, is there anybody here who didn't come here hoping to spend 2 weeks, 3 weeks in America, and your 2 weeks became 40 years?
I came to stay.
Mine is 19 now. I had no intention of staying more than 2 weeks. In fact, I came with 2 pairs of pants and a shirt, because I didn't plan to stay for long. Next year, it will be 20 years, and I said to myself, I'm going to start heading back home, but not just heading back home. I want to go back home with others with great ideas and help liberate our fatherland or motherland, whichever way you want to describe it. And we've been doing it now. No matter what they tell you, Nigerians want to be free. Nigerians want to be free. And it didn't matter where they are located, Nigerians are united in their desire to be free. But for so long, they have been lied to, abused, and bastardized that they are finding it difficult to trust anybody. That's what we confronted with Nigerians. You know, they'll tell you, look, they have told us this before. They told us this in 1979. Chidi, they told us. They told us during Abiola's time. They told us Obasanjo too that he had learned his lesson in prison. You know, after that, they told us when Yaradua was coming that you can run the country with one kidney. You know, and then they told us under Jonathan that if you have a PhD, everything will be all right. They told us under Buhari that if you have integrity, it will put food on the table. So what have you got to bring for us and to us? And when we stepped on the stage, the challenge us, the system challenge, people were asking questions. You know, and one of the biggest questions they asked us was experience. They said, what's your experience? What have you done before? Like the minister told me, go and start from the local government. You know? Because there's a natural order and progression before you can become president. You know, and I kept asking myself, what is the meaning of experience within the Nigerian political context? Experience to them is somebody who has stolen enough. That's an experienced politician. Experience is that politician who has killed too many people and such that everybody's afraid of him. That's an experienced politician. An experienced politician is a person who doesn't even know his left from his right, but who had the biggest rally because they can throw money at people. An experienced politician is a politician who can manipulate the whole process so that himself, his wife, children are the only political representatives of his people. They will even tell you in Nigeria that, you say you know politics. Can't you see Saraki? They have been controlling the people of Kwara for a long time. If they are not experienced, how is it that people of Kwara, they always go in front of their houses to die every year? That is the kind of experience we are talking about. But that is not experience, it is the mental conditioning of slavery. You know, people have been conditioned to not believe that there's anything else possible. And you look at it, the generation after you here, they have never seen anything good before in their lives. Some of us, we went to the University of Lagos, we met water running in our hostels. You cannot find a university in Nigeria today where there's water if it's not a private university. Yes. We just came from the University of Ife before we went to the palace. The toilets of the hostel, the Awo hostel, anybody here from OAU, Ife? Yes. The hall is known as Awo Hall. The toilet is not as good as the toilets of pigs. Yes. I mean, piggeries have better toilets. US piggeries have better toilets than us. And you look at them and say, how do students graduate like this and you expect them to behave like normal human beings? There is no water, no drop of water falling out of their shower. Meanwhile, we were in our friend's neighborhood, Deji, who was introduced earlier, and we were, you know, walking around. I wanted to exercise. I went to an elementary school. The sporting center of the elementary school in his neighborhood is better than that of the University of Lagos. Right? This is how much the mental conditioning have been. So it takes a lot more work to conscientize a person who has never seen anything good before. Like a child that grew up and has never seen electricity before. How do you describe that? You can have, you know, constant electricity to him and they'll believe you. Because he's never seen it constant before. Nigeria is such a place that if people have light, as we call it, and it's lasting more than 4 hours, they start wondering what happened to the electricity company. It's true. Yes. And you look at it even with religion, the prayer points of people in Nigeria are different from the ones who have traveled here. Have you not noticed this for those of you who go to church? Because you go to Nigeria, you hear very weird things in church. Somebody praying that God should provide transformer in their area, you know. But your prayer point is, how do I pay my bills? Here, my electricity bills, because you don't even know where the transformer is located here. You know, I don't know where the transformer is located in my area. I've not seen a transformer physically before. But Nigerians, they worship transformer. They are passing the place like this. Make this transformer no blow. Or somebody will go and give testimony in church that their transformer has not tripped in 6 months. And it's a testimony. This things might sound funny to you, but it's the reality of life in Nigeria. So, having said all that, what is the solution? The solution is, in some cases, very simple. When Nigerian leaders want to press the panic button inside of you, they will tell you that Nigeria is complex and huge. That this is a very big, complex country. You know what I did? I traveled in Nigeria within 6 months. We traveled with no private jet. Yes, we traveled, and by the time we came back here from Osun, Ile-Ife, we had done 29 states. Yes. Nigeria is not big at all. The problem is that the road networks are pretty bad. Nigeria is just twice the size of California. So that I can just make you lighten the day for you with live stream wherever we go. And today we're driving from Tracy to UC Berkeley, and we just focus our camera on the road, and most of the commentator was just like, see road, my God, see road. Things that you take for granted over here, Yes, you don't think about it because, most of you are already driving partially driverless cars, right? Where the road is so open, you just leave the steering to do the driving. You dare not leave your car like that in Nigeria because it will just fall into a dish and that's it, right there. We spent, on one occasion that we were supposed to go from Lagos to Ekiti for a rally, we spent 6 hours within the space of 2 kilometers on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. This day it wasn't even church. It was a different situation. Just one tanker broke down, and in the whole of that area, they couldn't find the machine that could take it out of the way. 6 hours, we didn't eventually make it to Ekiti that day. So I'm coming back to telling you what is complex about fixing Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. Do you guys know how long it is? It's just about, I think, 140 kilometers or thereabout. But they have been at it just to fix it. It's not a brand new road for 20 years. Every government that has come has allocated funds to that road. It's never completed. In fact, a friend of mine was telling me that, Nigeria is a ridiculous place. There are some of these things that is spiritual. There are forces that have made it impossible to be passing that road. Like me, I don't pass that road again. I go through Abeokuta. I said, but the forces are going to kill you because the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, Lagos-Abeokuta is even worse. Yes. At this point in the history of Nigeria, we should have had at least nothing less than 5 expressways out of Lagos. There should have been a high-speed train from Lagos to Port Harcourt, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri and back to Lagos, because why? The allocations have been made over the years for these monies to have been spent in interest of roads, networks, for electricity to be working almost perfectly, because the same amount of money that Nigeria is earning and wasting away and stealing is the same amount of money that countries like Saudi Arabia earned to develop their own society. Countries like Angola that just, had 20 years of war. If you go back there today, you can't believe. Same oil money. Like, even the USA, right? There's a town called San Ramon here, right? It is money from Nigeria that they're using building the place. Chevron is the one that took money from Niger Delta. If you go to San Ramon, they measure air quality in that city. No, I'm telling you. You know how they point to their refinery. Somebody said, don't talk politics here. I talk international politics. I'm not afraid. The refineries are oozing, the fumes in the direction of Oakland. The clean air is in the direction of San Ramon. But the most important thing is to understand that whatever you found in that area probably 60 to 7% of it is from profit made from Nigeria. Yes. It's the same thing with Amsterdam. You know, shell money is what was used to develop all this area. And it's a joint venture. Nigeria takes its own, and they take their own. They use their own to develop their own country. Nigeria takes Nigeria's money and go and develop their own country too. If you go to Dubai, most properties are owned by Nigerians there, right? And you ask yourself, because one of the questions you get asked all the time is, don't our leaders see how things are working in another part of the country? No, the truth is that you don't have leaders. You have to have leaders before they can have vision, right? So if you're asking yourself, don't our leaders see, you're assuming that they took eyes to those places to see things. No, these guys don't give, a damn about you. They don't have vision, they have no mission, they don't have character, they have no capacity, they have no competence. The answers are there for you to see in Nigeria that is broken and broke. The answers are there for those of you who travel to Nigeria from time to time at the airports as you are landing. You are asking yourself, my goodness, is there nobody here to sweep the airports or to change the bulbs or for somebody to be able to maintain 5 toilets at the international airport of a country, no money to do it? The only thing that is working as you're arriving is the customs say, what did you bring for me? Immigration say, what do you have for me? One was even asking me one day, he said, look, put the money under the passport. I said, which money?
I know.
Now to realize that I live stream them, when I'm coming, nobody wants to talk to me. Please, go. Yes, because these days I take a live stream to the airport. As I'm arriving, I turn on my phone, it's live streaming. So anything you do, tell them, please, everything you are doing is live, just so that you don't say that I didn't warn you in advance. So we need to change that culture. It is not our culture to suffer. It's not anybody's culture to suffer anywhere in the world. The culture of suffering is foisted on people sometimes who are complacent, who don't do anything about their condition. And I have done, in terms of experience, 29 years of fighting consistently to have this country work for the people of Nigeria. That is what drove me when I was when I was 19-year-old to join protests against military rule. I was part of the young people in Nigeria who fought against military rule. I was part of the young people in Nigeria who got expelled from the university twice. At the University of Lagos in 1994, I was physically attacked and injected with an unknown chemical substance because I refused to join cult groups on campus. The reason was that I realized that it's the same people whose parents are destroying Nigeria. Their children are the cult members. And as we're fighting their parents, we have to fight their kids on campus as well. I was almost killed for it. And when I left Nigeria, I started Sahara Reporters because I knew that without information, you can't fight these people. And over the years, I used that platform to fight as many of them as I could, but I realized that the more you fight them, the more they become caked in their ways. Because there are not many of them who get consequences for their actions or inactions. Some of the things they do in Nigeria, if a county executive do that here, they go to jail. And I saw a governor who went to jail for misappropriating $5,000. I think it was Pennsylvania, because he used $5,000 diverted from his office to repair his house. Nigerian politicians are laughing. Say, what kind of stupid law is that? 5,000? That one is not even enough for them to use to carry Uber for their girlfriends. Nobody, and we don't have a system that's working for the people. So 29 years later, I said to myself, I cannot stand aside and be watching how things are going wrong, and I'm comfortable with just writing reports or monitoring elections. And in fact, what I said to myself finally is that I'm not going to be the one reporting the next election result that will claim that it's free and fair when I know the election is not going to guarantee freedom or fairness to the Nigerian people. And we're at that point where we cannot say that we even have options to vote for. How do you wake up in 2019 and the only two options you have is between Atiku and Buhari? Right? Some people said, well, it is their turn. I said, no. Because the 4 years that they're about to take from us is the same amount of time people used to obtain degrees that change their life forever. So are we just going to give up that 4 years again to another set of clueless, wicked, corrupt leaders? We know them. We know their pedigrees. We know their antecedents. When we have a bunch of very young people that I saw today at UC Berkeley, one of the guys, young guy, said, well, you know, when we're introducing, he said he's a nuclear physicist. Young guy. You know, and I asked him, do you have any plans to go to Nigeria? Of course, you know. I said, no, not anytime soon.
You will go if you win.
But when I finished talking to them, all of them followed us around and said they will go to Nigeria if you win the election. Because we could connect with them. They could see. They made that promise because we were able to interact, engage, and they could connect, and they could see that collectively we have a future. And a future that would create one of the best countries in the world. And I will tell you that we win the election next year. Amen. If we don't win that election, there's a reason why all of you are sitting here tonight and you were not coerced or bribed to come to this event. In Nigeria, if you had this many people in a room listening to a politician, just know that their pockets are stuffed with enough money. Yes. And you'll just be hearing people asking questions that are not relevant to the politician, you know, because all of it is orchestrated to make it look real, whereas they're really, really very, very fake and fickle. So, what do we have for you? I'm not here to preach that I will construct roads, even though we want to do 200,000 kilometers of roads that we know are possible. I'm not here to preach to you that I want to secure Nigeria, even though I know that the most important thing right now to even attract you back home is security. No one of you is going back to Nigeria if you don't know if you can make it from the airport to your next destination. It's not a laughing matter. I'm not here to preach to you that, you know, we're going to provide electricity, even though I understand that 7,000 megawatts of electricity is not enough to run the San Francisco train metro system. Yeah? We need, starting point, 24,000 megawatts. And you guys drive around here, don't you start to see right here in Northern California how even every bus stop has become like a solar panel. And every house has a solar panel on top of it. And people here actually, you know, are sometimes incentivized to to sell electricity to the government or to companies here. That is the future. And that's what I went and told people at home. You know, when I went to Ibadan, I said we can finish Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in months. They said it's not possible. And when I started breaking it down to them that you can actually do at least 8 to 10 kilometers of that road per night, I was like, oh, how come nobody ever told us that that is possible? Because that is how it is done elsewhere. You know, if you have 120 kilometers, so if you do 8 or 10 kilometers per night, because I have been on highways in the US before that I was passing the place in the morning. By the time I came back the next day, it was completely done. You know, said, oh, so that is possible. And people started listening to us. When we said to them, you know, the minimum wage you have here is trash. You know, because it's minimum wage in Nigeria right now is 15,000 naira. It's not up to even $100. They said we start with a living wage of 100,000, which is $285 per month. I said that's even too little, because when I first started working in New York, and when I arrived here, my minimum wage, my first hour, can buy me a bagel, yes, buy me tea, and get me the Metro card. Everything, by the time I'm done for the first hour, I've only spent $4. That means after the first hour, I saved $3. So if I work for 8 hours, my minimum wage has taken care of my food for that day, and I have savings. But in Nigeria, the minimum wage is what Yoruba people call salary. That is go and see it. because it will never take you home. And when we said the idea, they said, it's not possible, it will cause inflation. A few months later, the federal government was forced to be negotiating with the Nigeria Labour Congress to increase the minimum wage. And I said, how come this one is not going to cause inflation? Because why? The elites have a way of taking care of this. And I wish that in Nigeria we can force everybody to be on the minimum wage, including our senators. You see how the minimum wage will be jacked to not even 100,000 but 500,000 per person. Because an average senator take home per month is equivalent to the minimum wage of 720 workers in Nigeria. The allowance is 13.7 million naira per month, just the allowance. Then they have a salary of about $1 million, and then they have oversight, visit, they have all kinds, they have wardrobe allowance, they have spitting allowance, toothbrush allowance. These guys are taking care of themselves, but they are jacking the people around. And I said, look, what we need is a redistribution of that wealth so that it will percolate to the regular people. That's how they do it elsewhere, right? So infrastructure, like I mentioned, how great will it be for you to drive from Lagos to Abuja the same way we have what is 101 we have here? Yes. And there's also an I-95, by the way, that can come from the northeast. Is it? There's an I-5 here, but there's a highway that links the northeast to the west. It's called I-80. I know there's one that's 95 too. Yes. Yes. So you have all these interstate highways, you have county highways. It's not difficult to do. But somebody will say to you that because you didn't vote for us last month, we are not having roads in your area for our tenure. No, it's true. It's part of acceptable policy not to take care of people who didn't vote for you. Buhari opened his mouth and said that the people that the 5% votes he got in the southeast and south-south is such that he will not take care of them until he has taken care of the 95% that voted for him, which is based in the northwest and the northeast and probably the southwest. And now he has completely abandoned 100% of the people of Nigeria. So, what next? Education. Our education is so bastardized now that it's replaced by ignorance. And I say ignorance because if you get to a stage where in 2018 a PhD holder from Nigeria is telling you that you are wrong for not prostrating for a traditional ruler and that you should be beheaded, just know that the person has never been to school, but he might have entered a building labeled a school. Right? Our health system, majority of Nigerians are dying of hypertension. That all kinds, but that I think head disease. I mean, head disease is the most pronounced around the place, but they don't know because a lot of people have never checked their blood pressure before. They only do it when they're about to die. Yes, there's a friend of ours in the house who is Pius. Pius is at the back there. Pius goes to Nigeria with the BP test machine. And he says when he checks his friend's BP, he on one occasion had to tell one of his friends, if you don't go to hospital, you're about to have stroke. But the guy is like, what's wrong with me? He says, your BP has shot through the roof. Because nobody is out there taking care of anybody. But we have a policy in our agenda as part of our 10-point agenda to find out 160,000 health workers. Even if it's just to carry the stethoscope and the BP machine first to go to every village, we have to do it right away. And to create a universal healthcare system in Nigeria where everybody is registered within the universal healthcare system, such that if you're a worker, you can have deduction. If you are not a worker, you can make a contribution to it. If a vulcanizer knows that he can see a doctor when he's sick, if you ask him to put in 2,000 naira into this healthcare system, he will pay instead of dying. Yes. Right? And it is possible in Nigeria. They have a national health insurance scheme but it's slush fund for, for stealing, that's available for stealings. Just yesterday, a book was published in Nigeria on how President Olusegun Obasanjo spent $500 million for his failed third-term agenda. Such selfishness. Can you imagine what $500 million would have done to the education system in Nigeria? They were carrying monies in ambulances and bullion vans just because the man wanted to continue as Robert Mugabe of Nigeria. And nobody has been punished for it. How about corruption in Nigeria? You don't even know where to start. Yes. It has become so endemic that it has become part of our acceptable culture to steal and be revered for stealing. I write a lot of stories on SR reporters on EFCC, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And one day, an EFCC official told me that they arrested a man, and when they released him, he thanked him. He said, "Thank you for starting my political career. Now that you have arrested me, I'm going to declare for Senate." Because people didn't know that I have enough money until you arrested me. Now they are going to choose me as their next representative. And lo and behold, our Senate is made up of thieves. Yeah. Yes. The Senate president is one of the biggest thieves that Nigeria ever had. There's even a senator in Nigeria that is wanted in the US for drug running. What's that? Duruji Kasamu. Yeah. About whom even a soap opera is made in Nigeria. You don't. If I start mentioning their names, you will not believe it. This Nigerian Senate is a coven of thieves. It's a retirement home of thieves. If you don't believe me, imagine a Senator Joshua Darie. He's in jail as we speak. Jail for corruption. And from inside jail, he obtained a form to run for Senate again. No, I'm not. This is the truth. He has obtained a form under the APC to run from prison and he might win. Because only thieves are elected into office in our country. What about our economy? If you ask yourself, what is Nigeria's economic system or what's Nigeria's political economy? There's nothing. Nobody can tell you exactly what it is. In fact, the only thing we know about our economy was the former Minister of Finance who forged an NYC certificate who's just been forced to resign. And the only reason why she was forced to resign yesterday, I'll reveal to you, it's not conspiracy theory. It was because Buhari had just appointed one of his kinsmen again to run the DSS. And there was outrage, and they needed to look for something immediately to quell the outrage. So they pushed the woman out so that you can have something else to talk about in the meantime and forget the crime against humanity that they committed with the kind of tribalism and nepotism that Buhari is practicing in Nigeria of today. So, what is the most important discussion in Nigeria? Restructuring. Right? A lot of people have been saying restructuring. We also have plans to restructure Nigeria. And restructuring has different connotations to different people. Some people call it devolution of power. Some people call it regional government. And we had a conversation about it last night where a brother said, we want to restructure Nigeria. We must, and I said, it's beautiful. I agree too. But who are you restructuring Nigeria for? And who are the people restructuring Nigeria? Is it the old people who are in the departure lounge of life that will restructure Nigeria for you, young people, when in their entire history, they have never restructured anything in the favor of anybody but themselves before? As the Yorubas have an adage that in English, it means that if somebody is going to give you some new sets of clothes, check the one he's wearing. So if somebody is asking to restructure Nigeria for you, check what he has done when he was in position of authority, if he has ever restructured anything good. I use the example of my state governor, Olusegun Mimiko, who was in power for 8 years. Anybody from Ondo State here? Stubborn people? You know? Yes. For once, the man did not allow local government elections to hold for 8 years. The day he left office, he joined the restructuring team across Nigeria. I said, restructure, restructure. When these people came and said, why didn't you restructure the local government? Why didn't you allow elections to hold? You would have been a perfect example for what you preach. But if you cannot allow local government elections to have, you cannot allow local governments to operate, you cannot convince me that you're interested in restructuring. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know I have not said anything here tonight that came from a book. I'm telling the story of Nigeria in front of you, and all of you are witnesses of one part or the other. You are witnesses to how Nigeria degenerated from a nation state to a failed state. Nigeria is only good these days for studies across universities in the world on how to describe a nation that failed, even though it had potential. But let me leave you with just one optimism. Yes, something to be optimistic about. Is that in our travels around Nigeria, in this exploration of what is possible in Nigeria, we found untapped territory. Nigeria is like, you can start a nation from every place we visited in Nigeria, brand new, and you'll be surprised how Nigeria will look even in 2 years. Because if you want to build brand new roads, there's a space for it. If you want to build dams, there are rivers that can fuel it. If you want to build solar energy, you have enough sunshine that can, power heaven, right? If you want to build schools, there are lands for it. And if you want to build people, there are 198 million people to be built. If you want to educate people, plenty of them to be educated. If you want to grow crops, plenty of opportunity to grow hectares of land. If you want to do tourism, there are mountains, valleys, and rivers, better than the one you have in California. I tell you that. In Nigeria, they are all covered up by incompetence, mismanagement, and we can just go there, remove the cobwebs, clean up the country, and build the country anew. And I'll tell you that we can do it because I know that it's a simple thing to do. And there's nothing complex about building a nation when you have the resources to do it. But instead of doing it, you have been frittering away the resources and stealing it and mismanaging it because there are no consequences for doing it. So on this note, I was told that I can ask for your support. And I'll tell you something, the most difficult thing for me to do is asking for monetary support from our brothers and sisters, because in our own political life in Nigeria, we are not used to giving, we are used to taking. So to restart the culture of say, hey, you can contribute money to someone who can change the country, when before they used to contribute to you to destroy the country, it takes a lot of mental reworking of Nigerians. But you know what? You guys are already doing it already, right? You are the Social Security Department of Nigeria. You are the ones sponsoring all the weddings that are happening on Saturday through Western Union and World Remit. You are the ones that are there helping to send people's children to school. You are the ones that are even building boreholes, because without us, probably Nigeria would have failed completely. Right? So that's why we are coming to you, because we don't have Godfathers. We only have godliness in our hearts to remake Nigeria and create a Nigeria where all of you can go back to. I want your next vacation to be planned for Nigeria. I want you to be able to take your children to Nigeria and say, hey, go to school here. I want to go back. And I'll come and get you next summer. And while you're here, learn Yoruba, learn Igbo, learn Hausa, or even learn the three of the languages. Because just like the Chinese people were saying, learn how to speak Chinese, and some people ignored it. Now, China has gotten to a point where it has become the leader of the world. And I believe that if we get it right in Nigeria, Nigeria is about to become the greatest nation on earth. Yes, I believe it. I believe it. Because as I love to describe Nigeria, in Africa, if you look at the map of Africa, it's like a pistol facing down. And if you look at Nigeria, it's like this, it's a trigger. And if Nigeria fires, Africa is about to kill. So, thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much because you better start buying your tickets. You are coming to the inauguration next year. Take it back. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. We have, this is the opportunity to ask questions. Okay. So we are going to only take 3 people because...
No, I just came from far.
Okay, so... Okay, so do we have paper? We're going to get paper. Okay. So we'll get some paper for everybody. Everybody came here to be heard, right? So we are going to get to hear everybody. And so we'll just pass out some papers to you. Write down your questions. No? Oh,
Let's start asking questions.
Okay.
You go with the video. We can ask the questions.
Okay. Can you raise your hand, please?
What you said is that we can take 3 questions at a time.
Number 2,
and answer.
number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. So we have 10 people.
3 at a time.
3 at a time, okay? So number 1.
So do you need a pen?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. My name is Okay, all right.
You don't have it.
No, it's fine. Yeah. So thanks for...
Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for making the time to my name is Abi Adioti. So I'm based here. Again, thanks for the time for coming here. I'll tell you a little bit about you and and I'm glad you came. We do need a change, and we definitely, we've done a lot of destructive technology. I think this could be the way to actually disrupt the political system in Nigeria. So my question is, you talk about the structuring.
Yes.
So the way it is right now is the central take the resources, and they decide on who to give it to.
Yes.
So when you become the president, how would you change that? Because back in the 70s, when the regional body owned their own resources, you come to the middle, things were a lot better then. What would you do differently when you become the president?
Second question.
Second, sister.
Thank you.
My name is Fumola Odunami. I am concerned for your safety.
Yes.
And how are you protecting yourself? And what checks and balances do you have in place to keep yourself safe from, you know what?
Yeah.
And the other thing is, what help do you want from people here besides financial help?
Thank you.
Number 3, please keep your question to the point. Number 3, you were number 3.
Yes.
My name is Gele Omoni. I want to ask in particular, how do you intend to change electricity?
Yes.
It is, and if Nigeria is probably just electricity,
We're all coming home.
we're all coming home.
Very true. Thank you. So I'll take 3 questions at a time so that I don't forget. And then, how do you decentralize ownership of resources? Right. There is the way Nigeria is supposed to be a federation. Because right now, by design or default, it has become a unitary system where the president is the most powerful person in the military, and the federal government takes the largest chunk of resources. So it speaks to the need to devolve power. But you cannot devolve power in Nigeria without looking at one of Nigeria's biggest fundamental flaws. We have a fraudulent constitution. The Nigerian constitution was not made by Nigerian people for the Nigerian people. It was designed by the military. And the military just inserted, in fact, the Constitution of Nigeria, the 1989 Constitution, was a copy of the 1979 Constitution. Yes, with some, improvements here and there. Until we go back to a conversation around what should be our Constitution and endorsing that Constitution by way of referendum, we might be lying to ourselves by thinking that we can just fix a few nuggets here and there. And it is that can fundamentally address progress and ownership and distribution of resources and wealth. But I will say to you also, very importantly, that Nigeria needs to address the character of its leaders. The first restructuring that needs to happen is the character of Nigerian leadership. Otherwise, it's like buying a brand new car and putting a driver who has never trained how to drive before to drive the car. It's going to crash. There's no question about it. I said it earlier here somewhere today, and I counted in every region of Nigeria where you can find people who will destroy the region, even if Nigeria were to be regionalized. I started from the southwest. Tinubu will take over the southwest. If you go to the southeast, they have the Kurimadus there. If you go to the south-south, Wiki and Amechi there, they're there. If you go to the north central, you find Saraki there. Go to the northwest, Kwakwanso, they're there. You go to the northeast, Atiku there, they're there. So, except something is done to break the stranglehold of these guys on Nigeria, you can have the finest conversation, you can have the best constitution. You are wasting your time if we don't elect leaders who are visionaries to take the country to the next level, right? Every other country in the world that has experienced progress, the same time Nigeria has retrogressed over the years, has experienced some kind of leadership change. And that is what we must be thinking about fundamentally right now. The resources we have enough to go around. But when you have greedy people, there can never be enough to go around. If you give all of Nigeria's budget to one of these guys I just mentioned to you, or even their children, it's not enough. Right? Second question about security. I am so concerned about my security that I'm no longer afraid. Yes. I will tell you that when I first started, 6 months ago, everybody was afraid that I won't make it out of the airport. But I did. What has happened over the last 7 months, I'll tell you, was scary, including what happened a few days before I came here. In fact, the day before I arrived here. Because the system has become very intolerant to any form of discussion about change. The way to describe it is that the Nigerian space, either geographical or political space as you want to call it, has reduced to the barest minimum of destruction that there's no space to do good. And when you have no space to do good, even the space to say good things is evaporating. Because everybody, everywhere has been colonized by what you like to describe as evil. And yes, it's the truth. But what I decided to do is that somebody has to step up to the plate and make sacrifices. And I don't know if I will survive it or not, but I'm not worried. I'm not worried. And I have the belief. It would be great to have police protection, but sometimes in Nigeria it's better to have armed robbers protecting you than having police. So I decided I'm not going to apply for police protection. But in some cases, there are certain objective realities that you face that makes you think, well, maybe I need better security. And we do that, our best, but we just don't allow security to become they will also create conundrums around you, what I call security conundrums, to the extent that you go back to seek security from the people who are making you insecure. So, and the moment they have you surrounded that way, forget it. They'll be giving you security reports. Don't go here to campaign. Don't go here to campaign. At the end of the day, your campaign cannot go beyond between you and the security agents who are advising you. Because there's no space in Nigeria that's secure, to be honest with you. But again, maybe it's not the finest thing to discuss security publicly. But something is done. With regards to what you can do beyond financial commitments, well, you're out there on social media. Please help amplify our position on the need for Nigeria to change. I'm not afraid to use the word revolution. Nigeria has to experience a revolution. And we have a chance at making that happen. There's a difference between change and revolution. What we need now is a revolutionary position on how the country must move away from the direction that it has been on since. And already people are listening. People are ready. What has been absent over these years is that people can't trust people they have been hearing from. But now I think they can see that, look, this young man is not afraid, because tomorrow, yesterday I'm in Osun State and Badagry. Today I'm in Oakland. I'm in California. And people can understand that we're making connections between your aspirations and the aspiration of people to be free. The aspiration of you here is to have a country you can go to. The aspiration of people at home is to have a country they can live in. And the moment we can match those two aspirations, we will overpower our oppressors. That's it. Sometimes it's something as simple as even calling your congressman. Somebody said yesterday, the letter is going to, I think it's Barbara Lee, is that the senator? Yes, to say, look, something must be done, because if they know that the world is watching, they become very careful. Yes. How do you change the power sector? That's a very interesting question, but it's not difficult. Do you know that within the last 10 years, Morocco, through solar energy, is going to be selling power to France and Malta? The same sunshine that rises over Nigeria is the same one that they are going to be using. Because somebody was visionary enough in Morocco, and Tunisia is also doing the same thing now. And recently you heard that Angela Merkel went to Nigeria. He asked Buhari, said, why are you not using solar energy? You are here complaining about lack of electricity. Of course, the man didn't know what, because he didn't even know that Angela Merkel is no longer, that Germany is no longer West or East Germany anymore. He used to call Angela Merkel president of Western Germany. So electricity, you guys got a joke now, right? But it's not funny. But electricity, we have plenty of technology out there today that could make us grow our electricity from the miserable 7,000 megawatts to 24,000. What we tend to do first year in office is to grow that by 4,500 through solar alone. And to put all the solar power together there, that will provide employment for over 2 million young people. The same thing they are doing in Morocco. The controversy about all the people is not the only controversy about me. You've heard about the marijuana controversy too, right? And what I did was at the health fair, they was asking about traditional medicine, and I said, every year, Nigeria burns over 1.5 trillion naira worth of marijuana. Yes, they just light it up, And if you burn that amount of marijuana in the country, everybody will be high, Whereas we could package this and export for people who are looking for medicinal value. When I said it, the whole country went up in uproar. Sowore wants to be selling the book. Even in church on Sunday, they said, please, this country needs deliverance. The pastor was pacing around. This country needs a little. Our presidential aspirant say he wants to be selling weeds. But within the context of that, the country had to learn that there is value for marijuana. And that if we were selling it, we could be making, what is Nigeria's budget per year? 8.5 trillion naira. You are burning weed that is worth 1.5 trillion. So you already could have made 1.5 trillion naira if somebody was thinking. Because pharmaceutical companies are buying them and making billions. Colorado made $1.7 billion last year. California is legalizing everywhere. Yes. And I said to them, the best weed in the world is grown in Ekiti. The people of Kwale got upset in Delta State. They said he's from our area. He's back there. He's their ambassador. How dare you say that? So can you imagine how much money we have been making from just that? But nobody wants to have the conversations that are necessary for the future. So it is just that easy. Okay, I have someone saying I will take next week.
Number 4. Please keep your questions short.
And I will try and keep my answers short.
Yes.
So we like the long answer.
Okay, go ahead. Number 4.
My name is Omoyele, and my question centers around the governing structure of the country. I mean, if you look at the Constitution, there are 3 arms of power of the government, so to say, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. Now you're trying to run for president. Everybody knows in the democracy, especially the one we run, is actually mostly governed by the legislature, which is Congress, the National Assembly. I see the party, you know, I don't know the structure of the party, but I see you as a candidate, you know, and pretty much have a good vision and everything. But I don't see people going to the assembly, to the Congress. So the way the thing is going in the country now, you can even be a president. If your party doesn't, if you don't hold the majority in the legislature, they will remove you. I mean, because it doesn't cost them anything. I mean, look at what even they're trying to do to their own people. You know, who's in power, who's not really settling them and they call it Nigeria. So I wonder how you envision government or governance, you know, if you happen to make it, if you happen to win the election. Thank you.
Number 5.
Thank you. My name is Yemi Omoni. I have, one of the questions I wanted to ask was voting. We in the diaspora want to be able to vote as well. Okay. I actually started following when I was in a very different group, and they started making, they were saying a lot of rubbish about me, and I said, this is nonsense. I can't be a part of this. And people started saying it's because you're talking from America. So I was going to delete myself. I said, I spoke to the administrator, and he said, leave if you have to leave. Sowore is a useless person. And I left until my brother told me you were coming. So I said, how do we influence? There's a lot of us here, and we want to be able to influence what's going on at home. So this, if you're going to capture a set of people, I believe there's an amount you've captured here. At least it should count during this election. So how can we vote during this election? How can we affect you?
Number 6.
Number 6.
I think I'm number 6.
Okay, yes.
But apparently, one of my questions has been asked, and that is, I was concerned about your security and also how we could impact the elections for the current session. I would love for us to be able to vote. But I guess an addition would be like, even though you said that we could do other things, I wonder if you can copywriters for political manifesto.
Absolutely.
I would love to vote.
That's yeah, somebody is, where's Josh? He can be a copywriter for yes, absolutely. He'll get your information.
Number 7.
Number 7, yes, that will be.
Incoming President Sowore. Thank you. I'm a politician, and for the political class, I should take responsibility for some of the problems besetting our nation state. Having said that, we know your antecedents, we know your proclivity towards things that would engender positive change in the Nigerian nation space. The problem is not that of leadership alone, but also that of the proletariat, as followers. Nigeria is a nation of paradoxes. So much hypocrisy about. Number 4, just quick question out of the map. How do you manage people? How do you sustain the vision, the aspiration that Sowore stands for? Given the hypocrisy of our people, the sheer fanfare, the absurdity of the Nigerian individual, politician, follower, how do we effect change when you stand alone as the president and you have a corrupt, followership? How do you lead the people that do not want change?
Thank you. This is
You have to walk around, you know that.
no, this is what you have.